So let's first talk about your video presentation. So I've already posted the submission bin for your video presentation. So before we discuss the video presentation, let's watch some video from last sem. So last sem, I also asked my students from calculus to do an exposition, basically the same application of calculus in real life. And at the end of towards the end of the sem, I asked them also to do a video presentation. So since we're on a new setup, instead of reporting, so ito yung ginawa nila, video presentation. Okay, so let's watch my top pick from last sem. So from all the sections that I've handled, ito yung top pick ko na video presentations. So you can use this as your guide or inspiration para gawin yung inyong video presentation. Okay? Let's watch them.
Do you imagine your life without televisions and computer? I know that if you imagine it, you will not know how was your life during this pandemic. And your whole quarantine life is kinda boring! Did you know that this kind of technology works with the help of Signal? Signal is the responsible in generating pictures, audio, and videos that we are enjoying when we are watching TV shows in Netflix and browsing to our social media accounts. I know that you are wondering how was the images and videos appear on your screen. Many science and math experts have teamed up to come up with this kind of invention. These people never stop in researching and studying different fields, just to give us high quality experience. There is what we call digital signal processing or DSP. This process where the signal are converted from analog to digital. How was DSP is working? There is science and maths behind it, but let us focus to its maths, particularly calculus. They use limits to amplify the signal. Fourier transform is a method that splits a waveform into an alternative representation, defined by sine and cosines. The Fourier transform showed that as the number of sinusoidal functions, every waveform can be rewritten. And lastly is the convolution. It's a process combining two signals to create a third signal. Now you know that calculus has a big role in creating this kind of technologies. Even if the computations are not visible in our eyes, but it will give us enjoyment and satisfaction. Wherever we are, we face calculus.
So I particularly like this video because of the effort to, although the concept is not novel. Kung mapapansin nyo, you can relate to the video, parang familiar kasi yung format niya ay kamukha ng sa NAS Daily. So at least they were able to deliver the video in an interesting way. Diba? In a way na makakaano tayo, yung kumbaga yung relatability ng video, mataas yung relatability ng video. Maganda naman yung pagkaka voice over dun sa video, maayos naman yung transitions ng mga video. Yan. And very informative yung content ng video. So this is prepared by this student last sem. So let's look at the next video.
Did you know that calculus is helping us in our everyday life? One of the first examples of application of calculus is through electricity. But first, when do we use electricity? In our modern world, we use electricity in our everyday lives. In washing clothes, for entertainment, to preserve food, electricity gave us light and many other things. So, the question now is, how can we apply calculus to electrical circuits? The answer is here. Feet capacitor. Capacitor can found in many electronic products like cell phone, flashlight, flat screen TVs, computers, and many electronic devices. When we are at high school, we learn how to compute voltage and current through a resistor. And we learn that voltage and current is not affected by time. But voltage and current through capacitor is different because time is the important variable in a capacitor. Current is proportional to the derivative of capacitor's voltage with respect to time, and capacitor voltage is proportional to the integral of capacitor current. The current is dependent on the derivative of voltage. So, if the derivative is equal to 0, then the current is also equal to 0. This is one of the bases on how electricians choose between AC current and DC current. DC current has constant voltage, therefore it has no current. Examples of DC electronics includes cell phones, TV, flashlight, and hybrid vehicles. While AC is used to deliver power to houses, office buildings, etc. And that is how calculus is applied in capacitor. And that was a wow fact.
So yung isang nagustuhan ko dito sa video, simple lang siya, 'di ba? Yung mood ng video chill lang, pati yung background music, 'di ba? Tapos yung storyline madaling sundan. Kumbaga if you're watching from the beginning, madali mo na sundan yung tinatakbo ng istorya. And of course, syempre kasama na rin din yung information na nakuha mo dun sa video. Maayos yung pagkakadub, yung voice over, malinis naman yung sound, crisp naman. Tapos yung mga transitions, yung paggamit ng mga elements and designs ng video, malinis naman yung pagkakagawa. Yan. So, yun yung isang factor kung bakit ko nagustuhan yung video na to. Yan. And it's also important na every materials na gagamitin ninyo ay properly cited. Yan. So, every picture, every sound, lahat ng ginamit ninyo sa video ninyo, pag hindi inyo, kailangan sinasite ninyo. Here's the third video.
Calculus is well known as a tool in solving scientific and mathematical problems. Why do we even study calculus? We're not even gonna use it in real life. It's just for problem solving. Can we do puzzles instead? Hold on, that's where you're wrong. What if I tell you that you could get a glimpse of the future through calculus? Let me show you the incorporation of calculus in people's daily lives through the concepts of birth, death, and population growth rates. The birth rate is the ratio between the number of live-born births in a year and the average total population of that year, while death rates refer to the ratio of deaths to the population. As the term rate is used for it, and the process may seem basic, one can immediately assume that it could be solved merely through statistics. But nope, as differential calculus is also one of the ways to solve it, as it is concerned with the rate of change of one quantity with respect to another. We all know that populations change and bearing an influx of immigration or people leaving. Population changes over time, and these changes are due to births and deaths. It can be expressed expressed as delta P equals to births minus deaths. Using differential equation and the laws of mathematics, we can come up with a formula. dP all over dt is equal to beta minus delta multiplied by P. With this formula, we can make educated assumptions about a certain population. For example, with the data of the birth and death rates in the Philippines in 2018 provided by the Philippine Statistics Authority, we can come up with the expected population in the country for the following year. In 2018, live births were registered at 16 births per thousand population. Reported deaths were at 6 persons per thousand population, and the population at the time is 105.76 million. With the formula, we should be able to predict the population for the following year. The population growth rate will be equal to the birth rate minus the death rate multiplied by the population, which will give us 1,057,600. Therefore, we can expect an increase of approximately 1,057,600 in the population of the Philippines. We can also use this formula to solve for hypothetical problems such as this one. A certain population stops reproducing, but its death rate remains inversely proportional to the square root of the population. There were 900 at the start and 441 after 6 months. When will the population reach zero? Why don't we hear it?
Alright, so here's what we know. The birth rate stopped, so that's equal to 0. And the death rate is inversely proportional to the square root of the population. So that's k over the square root of p, where k is a constant. The population started at 900, and after 6 months, it went down to 441. Now we are going to use the formula for the population rate, and we're going to substitute the given values. And then we can simplify that too. When we separate the variables and integrate, we can get 2 multiplied by the square root of p is equal to the negative k times t plus c. Now using the given p0 equals 900, we can solve for c. And we are going to get c is equal to 60. Now we can now solve for k. Using p6 equals 441, we can get k is equal to 3. Now that we have k and c, we can now solve for t. Using the original formula and substitution, we can get t equals 20. Therefore, the population will be extinct in 20 months.
It's fun how we could somehow have a glimpse of the future through calculus. We now have established that calculus is a real-life application, hence it could help in people's daily lives. And of course, it is more than just a training for problem solving, as it does solve real-life problems. So never underestimate calculus. It is more than what you think.
So, what I like about this video is first, the catchy introduction. First, the group presented a question dun sa start ng video. And it's a very common question ng mga students regarding math, di ba? Parang common notion na ng student na, saan ba namin gagamitin tong math na to? So that already piqued my interest. Kung paano ba i-discuss or ita-tackle ng group yung question na yon nung character sa simula ng video. So that's a good introduction. Nagpo-post ka ng question dun sa viewer mo, and then you're trying to address that question dun sa video presentation mo. And also, yung isang magandang part ng video, towards the end ng video presentation, bumalik siya dun sa question nung character. Kumbaga, sinagot niya yung question ng character. So, meron siyang what we call the concluding statement, parang pang-close nung video presentation nila. Pero ang pinaka malaking factor kung bakit ka nagustuhan yung video is the content itself. So, kung mapapansin nyo, yung mathematical content is accurate, correct. Tapos yung explanation ng group, very evident that the group understand the concept na ini-explain nila. Kumbaga naintindihan talaga nila yung concept, which is demonstrated through discussion of examples, 'di ba? Nagbigay sila ng concrete examples about growth, both theoretical and actual example. So kumbaga, mathematically tama yung dinidiscuss nung group and yung pagkaka-explain nila malinaw, maayos, and tama yung steps, 'di ba? Madali mong nasundan. So yun yung malaking factor. And of course, yung mga elements ng transitions, ng sounds, ng video quality, kasama din yan. Okay? And towards the end, again, don't forget to always cite the sources ng mga materials na ginamit ninyo. Laging kasama lagi yan, yung pagsasite. Yan. So let's look at the next video.
Imagine that you've just recently put up a business. Let's say a chocolate manufacturing company. All is well. You have your resources, machines, and workers in good condition. And yes, you are more than ready to jumpstart. Now, as the business owner, you want to earn more, and so you think of producing more outputs. Why not? Isn't that the case? The more you produce, the more you earn. So now you produce more and more and more boxes of chocolate. However, sometimes later, you viewed your company's financial statement and found out that you've had loss instead of profit. You ask, what have possibly gone wrong? Is someone stealing, or do the outputs you produce still inadequate? Until you've done your research and found out that producing more output does not immediately equate to more profit. Because as you produce more, you also incur more costs. The question is, how do you produce efficiently? And this is when differential calculus comes into picture. But first things first, what is differential calculus?
According to Russell 2020, differential calculus deals with the rate of change of a function. Now, this rate of change is measured using a quantity known as derivative. The derivative of a function, according to Matthews et al. 2013, is basically the slope of the line tangent to a particular point on the curve, denoted by dy over dx or y prime. So now, how does it become related to optimizing your profit and cost? As we express cost and profit into differential functions, it becomes possible to use differential calculus to find the profit and cost of functions' maximum and minimum points respectively. These points tell us when, that is at how much output the profit is the highest and when the cost is the lowest. Graphically, we say that your output is the independent variable and your profit or cost is the dependent variable. Here, we want to find the number or value of output that will give the business the maximum profit and the minimum cost.
As an example, let's go back to the chocolate manufacturing company. Suppose that their profit is denoted by this function, where x is the number of output. To get the number of output that will give us the maximum profit, we get the first derivative of the profit function and equate it to 0. That is because at maximum or minimum point, the slope will be 0. Now, doing algebraic operations, we found out that x is the number of output that will give us the maximum profit of 128. However, be careful, because we are not sure yet whether x or the number of output we get really a maximum point, since it could also be a minimum point. That is because we know that the slope at maximum or minimum points are both equal to 0. To know that, we can use the second derivative test. But how does that test work?
As the name suggests, we get the second derivative of the function and input the value of x or the number of output. If the answer is negative, it means that the function is maximum at x, while when it is positive, the function is minimum at x. Going back to the example, recall that the profit function is this. Getting its second derivative, we have. Inputting the value of x, we have. Thus it only confirms that x is equals to 128, the function is at maximum. Now, what does this mean? It only implies that the company should produce 128 outputs to earn a maximum profit. To know how much the maximum profit will be, we can simply input the value of x into the profit function that gives us 30,041 pesos and 7 cents. Similarly, we use almost the same process in minimizing the cost. The only difference is that we have to get a positive number in the second derivative test to ensure that the number of output will result to a minimum cost.
Finally, we found out how powerful differential calculus is in optimizing profit and cost. The truth is, it is only one of its many applications. In fact, its uses ranges from medical sciences, engineering, and even up to graphics designs. Therefore, calculus in general is not only a mere theory, but also a powerful tool in the advancement and innovation of the humanity.
So, kung mapapansin nyo, yung video nung nung group na to is almost the same nung video nung isang group kanina, yung previous video. So, nag-introduce ng problem yung group, right? So, yun yung pinaka-intro nila, yung problem ng company. And then, throughout the presentation, in-explain nila yung problem. Parang sinagot nila yung problem. And then, at the end, meron din silang closing or concluding statement regarding dun sa, in connection dun sa dun sa problem na pinost ng character. Basically, parehod ng style yung dalawang group. And kung mapapansin nyo, properly explained din, di ba? That's a very big factor. Properly explained din ng group, which simply means na naintindihan talaga ng group yung concept. So it's very important that you understood the concept in your exposition because that's the only way na ma-explain mo siya properly. Kasi kung hindi mo siya naintindihan, paano mo siya explain, di ba? So that's the point of the exposition, to understand it so that you can, in your own words, be able to explain it to the other. Yan. In this case, in the platform of the video presentation, para maintindihan ng mga viewer. Yon. So yun yung good thing or plus factor nung dalawang video na yun. The accurateness and the correctness of the mathematical concept being discussed in the presentation. All right. So this last video that I'm going to show you, this is not application of the subject in real life. Pero last time kasi, meron din akong student in set theory or meron din akong pinagawa sa set theory. Pero ano naman siya, documentary about their classical mathematicians involved in the field of set theory. So parang gumawa sila ng documentary. So this, of all the video that were submitted, ito talaga yung pinaka-nagustuhan ko sa lahat. Ayan. So let's watch the video.
Imagine telling someone, "The floor is lava!" and they dove right in to swim. You've got to be kidding me, that's missing logic, dude. Logic then leads us to sanity. The fun part is there's this thing called mathematical logic, in which the name De Morgan is no stranger. Ever heard of De Morgan's law? Let's talk about its prime mover. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the life and contributions of Augustus De Morgan. On the 27th of June, year 1806, in Madura, India, Lieutenant Colonel John De Morgan and Elizabeth Dodson welcomed their child, Augustus. But around his 7th month of existence, the secret rebellion took place, so they moved to England. When he was 10, his father passed away, and he started transferring from a school to another for a couple of times. He was bullied for seeing with only one eye. Then he turned 14, and they discovered that he is a math genius.
The moving power of mathematical invention is not reasoning, but imagination.
His college years in Trinity College, Cambridge are influenced by his math buddies, George Peacock and William Hewell, but he was prominent in musical clubs. Thereafter, he taught mathematics in University College London, where he lasted for 30 years, though he once resigned and went back. Within those years, he changed the world by writing about calculus and coining the term mathematical induction. And in 1866, he became one of the founders and the first president of the London Mathematical Society. Now, are you up for some love story? We'll get a bit of that, and let's start with De Morgan had a friend called William Friend, who's got a daughter called Sophia Elizabeth. De Morgan and Sophia met, and their stomachs are then filled with butterflies. They built a family with 7 children named William, George, Mary Augusta, Edward Lindsay, Elizabeth Alice, Anne Isabella, and Helen Christina. And the rest is history. De Morgan loved his family so dearly, but misfortune suddenly haunted him. 2 years after resigning as a professor, George, who seemed to be following his footsteps, died. But that's not it. It was followed by the death of one of his daughters. His love for them was just too strong that it got him extremely devastated. Having to bury 2 children led to nervous frustration, an incapacitating emotional disorder. On the 18th of March, year 1871, Augustus de Morgan died of father's love. Now let's look at the legacies he had left for the world to see. The legacy of De Morgan to the people of his own nation and to the new generation was not just about rigid logic and axiomatic. But it was rather a historical contribution that encouraged the new generation to not limit themselves with what's already known and to think out of the box.
O, di ba? Sobrang engaging ng video presentation nila. So kung narinig nyo yung sound ng video, meron na silang musical score, meron pa silang mga background music effect, di ba? So, kumbaga, pinag-isipan talaga yung elements ng video. Kitang-kita talaga na pinag-isipan talaga nila yung video presentation nila. Madaling sundan yung storyline, tapos maganda yung pagkakagamit ng animations, akmang-akma yung mga animations dun sa kwento or dun sa storya ni De Morgans, di ba? Tapos nag-enjoy ako yung musical score nila, bagay na bagay dun sa emotions. Pati yung nagvo-voice over, di ba? Kung ano yung emotions ng kwento niya, ramdam mo yun dun sa emotions nung nagvo-voice over, di ba? Ramdam mo kung malungkot yung storya, kung masaya yung storya, kung upbeat, di ba? So, lahat ng elements ng video presentation, pinag-isipan talaga. And maganda yung pagkaka-package. Kumbaga, yung transitions, yung pagkakagamit, yung background music. So, clear naman lahat ng sound. naglalaglag lang sa pagpe-present because of internet connections. Pero pagka pinanood niyo sa YouTube yan, at maganda yung internet connection niyo, maayos naman. So, provided naman po yung mga link. So, that's uploaded in my YouTube channel. Yan, provided naman yung mga link. So, if you want to watch them again so that you can find some ideas that you can use in your video presentation, you can go ahead. Pero syempre, I'm expecting na medyo mas maganda yun na yung gagawin ninyo because you already have your baseline. Kumbaga, yan na yung pwede nyong mag-ibas yan. Eh. So, you can improve from that. Okay, so for our video presentation, let's look at the instructions. Okay? So for our video presentation, what you're going to do is, of course, this is a group presentation. So as much as possible, I want you to work on it as a group. So pag-create nyo or pag nag-create kayo ng storyline, always give in consideration dun sa rubric natin. So, ito yung rubric. Always make sure na binabasa ninyo or iniintindi ninyo yung rubric because this is how you're going to be graded. So, the components of the grade for your video presentation are as follow. So, syempre, titingnan natin yung focus. Ano ba ibig sabihin na? The message is clear, strong and complete. The video effectively communicated the exposition topic where viewers can learn things that are of real educational value. So, a general audience has clearly been considered in making the video. So, always put in mind na kahit na hindi maalam sa math, dapat maintindihan pa rin niya yung video presentation niyo. Remember na we're dealing with general audience. So, kumbaga, anyone will be able to view your presentation. So, do not expect na ang manunood lang nito ay mga knowledgeable sa math. So, even those that has no prior knowledge with graph theory, dapat naiintindihan pa rin niya yung video presentation niyo. Organization. The presentation shows a continuous logical progression of ideas and tells a complete, easy-to-follow story. Well-documented and organized. So, tinitingnan dito yung pagkakaayos ninyo dun sa storyline ninyo. A rich variety of supporting information in the video contributes to the understanding of the video's main idea. So, lalagyan nyo ng mga supporting informations or discussions para mas ma-emphasize yung storyline na dinidiscuss ninyo. Of course, since this is a mathematical project, we also need to look at its mathematical content. So, content presented is mathematically correct and accurate. Mathematical terms and symbols are used appropriately. Mathematical procedures are explained without any difficulty, and connections between mathematical concepts are fully and eloquently articulated. So, ito naman kung naintindihan ba talaga ng group yung pinipresent nila, yung mathematical concept na pinipresent nila. Creativity and elements of design. So, dito naman papasok yung creativity ng group. Yan. So, excellent sense of design, effective camera technique or visual effect or digital enhancement used for the video or animations and or pictures are planned of good quality and purposeful, adding impact to the storyline. So, lahat ng elements ng video, tinitingnan natin. Yung musical score, yung background, yung video, yung animations. Ayan. So, dun papasok yung creativity niyo sa paggawa ng presentation. Smooth transitions are appropriate and add in delivery of the presentation. Both video and audio are crisp, clear, and understandable. The final production is free of technical errors. Okay? Now, convention demonstrate maturity with regards to grammar, syntax, word choice, and attributions. Any voiceover or conversations in the video are grammatically Correct. Now, you are free to use any language that you want in your video presentation. Pwedeng in English, pwedeng in Filipino, pwedeng in Cebuano, Kapampangan. Basta make sure lang that a general audience will be able to understand. So, if in case gusto nyo maging creative na Filipino yung language ninyo, I suggest lagyan nyo siya ng subtitle. Para naman, syempre, maintindihan din yung mga non-Filipino viewer natin, di ba? Okay? Ganun din, kung gusto nyo may kapampangan, so lagyan nyo naman ng subtitle para maintindihan pa rin ng mga non-kapampangan speaker. Okay, so okay lang yun. It's up to your creativity. So again, ang point lang, dapat tama yung grammar, yung syntax na ginamit, and so on. And finally, citations. This is equally important. Citations give proper credit. Every photographic or sound file is either original or permission for its use by the owner is documented. So kung hindi inyo yung sound file na gagamitin ninyo, yung video, yung clip, dapat merong proper citations. So as much as possible, if it's not a fair use, ibig sabihin hindi siya common use, yung license niya, kailangan mag-acquire kayo ng permission from the original author. Okay, so we don't want any plagiarism. Again, plagiarism is punishable by law. So we don't want any copyright violations in your presentation. Maraming mga content editor medyo borderline na nagba-violate ng copyright. Siguro it's about time na since we're in the academe, dapat magsimula sa atin na properly observe ang mga copyright laws natin. Especially now na nauuso talaga yung mga YouTube, mga Facebook. Marami ako nakikita na very blatantly hindi nila na-observe o nababiolate nila yung mga copyright law. So please observe copyright laws, ha? Yan. So those are the criteria para sa ating next parang criteria for judging. So actually you're being judged naman talaga. So criteria for our grade. So that will be the rubric. Always when you do your presentation, take note of those rubrics. So doon kasi ibabase yung mga grade niyo. Now, I also made a list, a breakdown of the grade para mas mabusisi nyo pa lalo yung grade kung saan nanggagaling. So, check nyo na lang yung breakdown na to, breakdown of scopes for the scores for video presentation. So, kumbaga, doon sa content and focus, ito yung mga hinahanap ko. Pag-gradean ko na kayo. Yan. Para properly guided kayo. So, the topic is clearly conveyed. Malinaw na yung gusto mong iparating. The topic is interesting, educational, and an appropriate application of the course in real life. So, dapat application talaga siya ng graph theory. The topic is thoroughly and completely discussed. And the topic is easy to understand, and even without any prior knowledge of the course, maintindihan pa rin. So, that's what we meant by concept and focus of your presentation. It's all about how you deliver your presentation. The content and organizations ay yung pagkakasunod-sunod ng discussions or kung paano niya inayos or ano yung storyline. So basically, storyline yan nung video presentation niya. The presentation has a clearly defined structure with elegant transitions and an effective introduction and conclusion. Yung introduction, very important kasi doon, yun yung magsiset ng attention ng viewer. Kumbaga yun yung magsiset ng tone ng video presentation. So, dapat introduction pa lang catchy na. Dapat introduction pa lang mapukaw na yung attention ng viewer. And of course, you need to close at the end of the video your presentation. Kumbaga meron kang concluding statement. Kung pang-synthesize nung buong video presentation. That will also leave a mark din sa viewer. Kumbaga, ito yung maiiwan na maaalala ng viewer. A rich variety of supporting information in the video contributes to the understanding of the presentation. So, as much as possible, ayaw natin yung very linear storyline na very plain. So, syempre, gusto natin mag-inject din tayo ng mga certain informations that could support our story. Video use factual information that is compelling to watch and presented in creative manner. So although this is educational, syempre gusto natin as much as possible is yung totoo lang yung ipe-present natin in a very creative presentation. So syempre gusto natin ma-maintain yung viewership yung kumbaga yung attention ng viewer para bato natin sa kanya yung mga informations na gusto natin makuha ng viewer. Dapat yung attention niya, makuha rin natin, masustain natin. For mathematical content presented, of course, should be mathematically accurate, sufficient, and clear examples. Kamukha ng mga video na pinakita ko sa inyo before, clear examples are given when appropriate. So, kailangan medyo strategic din yung pagbibigay nyo ng example. Dapat something that easily understood by the viewer, pero enough to get the gist of the math behind the application. So, clear explanation of terminology, definitions, theorems, and procedures are given with whenever appropriate. Excellent video, excellent evidence of student learning and efforts are reflected in the presentation. Again, as I've said a while ago, it's very important na naiintindihan mo yung concept na dinidiscuss mo. Because hindi mo naman siya ma-explain kung hindi mo siya naiintindihan. So, makikita yan sa presentation. Creativity and elements of design. So, again, this boils down to the creativity of the group. So, yung mga elements na ipapasok ninyo, yung mga transitions, yung mga sound effect, yung mga musical scores, so dyan na papasok yun. Conventions, yung grammar na gagamitin ninyo, yung language na gagamitin nyo, yung mga voice over ninyo na gagamitin. So, dapat observe proper, maturity with regards to grammar, syntax, word choice, and so on. Citations, again, you need to cite every materials na hindi inyo. So, every photo, every graphic, every sound file, dapat either original or kung hindi inyo yon dapat i-credit nyo kung kayo naman. Okay? So, those are the breakdowns of your grade. So, as much as possible, try to look at it when you create your video presentation so that makuha nyo yung perfect score na 100. Basta ma-meet nyo yung mga criteria na yan, you will get the maximum points for that. Okay? Basta ma-meet nyo yung mga requirements. Now, once you're done, make sure to compile your presentation in MP4 or MKB format. So, I will upload this in YouTube para ma-play. So, make sure that the content does not violate any copyright law. So, once na na-compile nyo na, lagay nyo yung ganitong file format para madali yung for efficient filing system. Course code. So, that's Math 306 dapat to, sorry. Math 306. Tapos BSM CS3B kayo. Ayan. So, course year section. Group name. So, for example, your group name is Matinic. And then the title of the video. Ayan yung title ng video. So, again, I always emphasize, do not submit any plagiarized materials. Plagiarism is punishable under the law. Okay, only one of the members will attach the video presentation. So, kung yung nag-create o si leader, kayong bahala. Basta the rest of the member will comment once they submit, dun sa baba ng submit button, di ba, may comment dun. Ko-comment nilang yung name of the group, title of the video presentation, and the name of the member who attached the video presentation. Para, pagka-gradean ko na yung sinubmit mo, hahanapin ko na lang kung sino nag-attach. Hahanapin ko yung video. So, kailangan ko yung informations na to kung hindi ikaw yung nag-upload. Yan. Okay? So, isa lang ang mag-upload. Ayan. Okay.